Welcome to Transformational Healing Summit, where we explore how to unleash your inner power, shift the mindset, and transform your health. My name is Alexandra Babayan, and I'm a host of the summit. I would like to introduce today's speaker, Karen Lee. Karen Lee is an experienced intensive care nurse with a degree in acute clinical care who runs the Sensitive Foodie Kitchen, which offers online courses, workshops, and support for anyone who wants to improve their health or just eat great food. She has also published her first book, Eat Well, Live Well with the Sensitive Foodie. Welcome, Karen. I'm super excited to talk with you today.
Oh, lovely. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yay. I know that your journey began from some life story, right? And I would like to learn a little bit more about it. When and how your transformational journey began.
Okay, right. So it started, I guess, about 12 years ago. And when you have those years when everything seems to happen. So I had one of those years, and I was working at the time, I was working in a neurological intensive care, which is a highly stressful environment. And the kids were quite young at school, and there was some other stuff. And I've always suffered from a lot of headaches, but I was starting to get a lot of migraines. And it was getting to the point when they were just coming almost every day, and I needed to do something about it. So I started this journey of investigation, really. So start to eliminate. And the doctor said there's nothing wrong, to keep taking the painkillers, which I didn't want to do. Because I knew the side effects. So I eventually discovered I had some food intolerances, and that these were contributing definitely were contributing towards my headaches and the migraines. And they were mainly dairy and yeast, which was all of my favourite foods. So suddenly it was the cake and the cheese and the wine and the bread. So all of these things that I really enjoyed eating. And I'd always been a yo-yo dieter as well. So I always knew that when I was eating much better, eating lots of whole foods, I felt much, much better. So it's it clicked. So I started to experiment. I cut these things out and I started to feel better. And my main aim at that point really was to get rid of these food intolerances and to be able to drink wine again, It was a good thing to aim for. And right. And soon after, we ended up as a family moving to India from the UK. We ended up being there for nearly 3 years with my husband's job. And so whilst I was there, because I wasn't working and the kids were at school, because they were 11 and 12 at the time, I started studying nutritional medicine because I still wanted to understand more. And then I met this amazing doctor called Dr. Nandita Shah, who ran courses and workshops about eating a whole food plant-based diet. So I did a few of those, and it was her. She was incredible. She just glowed. And I thought, right, I want to feel like that, So that's when I started moving more to whole food plant-based eating. I started developing recipes that would work, that I liked, but the family would eat as well, because I didn't want everybody to, have to cook so many different meals. And that's when the Sensitive Foodie was born as well. So I started blogging about it. And everything was much better. I felt much better. Time there ended, came back to the UK, went back to work in intensive care, this time in a general intensive care setting, so lots more medical patients rather than surgical, lots of chronic health problems. And I just got more and more hit by how disempowered you become when you become a patient. You become stuck and everything's done, you're told what to do, and you get these life limitations. And then suddenly, out of the blue, I I basically lost the sight in one of my eyes, and it did come back, but I was off sick for quite a while. And by this point, I was already doing my sensitive foodie kitchen stuff, so I was already working 2 jobs, doing workshops and starting my courses. And then I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is a degenerative neurological condition, and it was just like, oh, okay. So what's happened here? But I knew that the food side of things was still making a huge difference. So I had to change my lifestyle more. So I actually stopped working in intensive care because I didn't want to become a patient. I didn't want to be. I wanted to have much more control over the way that I feel, doing my best to be as well as possible. And it's not that I'm anti-medical establishment or things like that, but I just think we can do much more for ourselves in order to enable ourselves to feel much better. And it's not a fault thing. There's so many different influencing factors of what affects our health, and it can range from what we eat to stress to how we respond to stress. Some people are much more sensitive than others, and I realize that I am a very sensitive person. It's not just food. So I get absorbed other people's emotions and so really working in intensive care was not the best place for me because of just that environment. And so I focused much more on working as a sensitive foodie. Like I said, changed a lot of my lifestyle and do much better stress management. And generally I'm very well. I don't I don't take any medication for the MS, partly because the ones I did try, they made me sick, created other problems. Right. So I use diet, exercise, vitamin D, so I get out in the sunshine, stress management, all of these lifestyle things. And that's what I'm trying now to share with other people, because they sound really simple, but the way that we live our lives, because we're living so much longer as well, it has this huge impact on how we feel. Right. So I might have gone a little bit off track there, but that's basically where I'm at.
Yeah, very, I want to say amazing, but not amazing, but I feel like all those challenges and difficulties that we're facing, they're kind of showing us where to go, and when did you have this diagnosis, MS? How long you already?
All right, so I was diagnosed just over 4 years ago. The eye, when I lost the sight of my eye with the optic neuritis was the previous year, but that was something that it's only when you look back and you think, oh yeah. Oh yeah. So that had been playing up for a while, and actually it was probably the migraines, back 12 years ago when they all started. That was probably the start of it. So, but we don't know, because migraines, headaches, they can be all sorts of reasons. And so a lot of conditions, a lot of autoimmune conditions, or many ones, it's about, you look back and you see the picture, but at the time it's difficult to piece it together. Right.
Right. And so right now, and how long have you been on a plant-based diet?
So I changed to a whole food plant-based diet since 2011. So there's a difference between a whole food plant-based diet and then a vegan plant-based diet. And I have to say, over those years, I kind of moved in between. So it's easy. It can be difficult sometimes, especially if you're traveling or you're going out a lot, to manage a completely whole food plant-based diet, unless you're just going to sit there and eat salad while everybody else is enjoying.
Right. Can we talk a little bit more but it's a good point, that you brought up about the difference between whole plant-based diet and vegan. What's the difference?
Yeah, so a whole food plant-based diet basically is all plant-based food, but you don't have a lot of refined oils, don't have fried food, don't have deep fried food, don't have highly processed food. So you're eating as close to the original product as possible. So one of the challenges that I think everybody in the Western world has now is basically over 50% of the food that gets eaten is ultra processed. So it's a long, long way from the original product. And so so a lot of people eat out a lot, and even if it's something that's been made in the restaurant there, they're going to be using a lot of oils, a lot of salt, they put sugar in it because it's there to taste excellent.
Right.
You know, they're all the things that stimulate our dopamine receptors and give us pleasure, and it's kind of what we expect. And those oils have been already highly refined, often fryers. If the oil's not been changed, and every time you eat it heat the oil, then you're changing the structure again and making it more toxic and making it more difficult for our bodies to deal with that. Right. And when on a whole food plant-based diet, and now it's getting easier. Well, it depends where you live, but it is getting easier to eat out that way. People are beginning to understand it, but it's just eating real food as much as possible, you know. Right. So, and it depends on what you're trying to achieve with it as to how tightly you need to stay to it. So like for me, I need to be very strict because I don't want things to get worse, and I don't want to like test it.
Yeah, right.
So, but if someone is just eating because they want to feel great and eat and be as well as possible, then you know it's almost like that 80-20 rule. You know, you're eating fantastic food 80% of the time, and then 20, you know, a meal out or whatever. Then you know, then hopefully it's not going to do you too much harm.
Yeah. So right now your diet consists of mostly 80% raw and then 20 cooked, or you're.
No, it's I eat a mixture of raw and cooked food. I and also it depends on the time of year as well. So some people raw food works really well for, and other people it doesn't, and a lot of that is down to gut health. And whether or not your gut is well enough in order to be able to actually absorb all of those nutrients. And I think sometimes people go down the raw route immediately, like completely raw, and they don't do very well on that because their bodies are not ready for it. And then they think, oh, that was rubbish, that didn't work for me, give me a steak, you know. So everybody is different, and a lot of it is puzzling and working it out. Well, what works for me? And once you manage to peel off the layers of like addiction, so addiction to cheese or to sugar or whatever it is, then you can start listening to your body a little bit more, and it tells you what it wants. So like this time of year, I'll eat many more salads. The fruit is in season, you know, and it's delicious. I'm eating a lot more fresh berries. And then in the winter time, I'm much more into, I'll have lots of soups and stews and more nourish myself that way. But still having some raw. So it just depends.
Right. Yeah. I really, I also like the idea to eat seasonal food. It's better, and also we're kind of aligned with the nature, you know, what is our nature provides for us. And also, I agree with you. It's kind of a layer of onion you're kind of peeling off. And then actually when I just started my journey plant-based diet, well, it was 8 years ago, I was cutting off the food. For example, I decided first that I will not eat meat. Then after a while, I realized that dairy food feels weird, and I cut off that, and then fish. And so my body was kind of releasing it one step at a time. And you mentioned a couple of times that for some people it will be difficult to follow, for example, a whole plant-based diet when you're traveling, or also you talked about addiction. So I'm wondering what the most difficult for you was to overcome when you were transitioning to a new diet and to a new lifestyle.
Yeah, for me, the most difficult thing was other people. Because you have to remember, this is like 10 years ago or so now, and it's incredible how much things have changed over the last 10 years. But other people were very, it was difficult because they didn't understand why I wasn't going to eat something. You get labeled as being difficult. And I think, and for me at that point, you know, I just wanted to be normal, and that's basically what I've been striving to do, is to be normal and to normalize it, and it is becoming more normal. And it's one of the reasons why I wrote my book, is because I wanted to be able to show people that the information in an accessible format, and to kind of help people see that it's perfectly normal to eat this way, and actually it's the way that our bodies really desire to eat, and it's only that there's all these other things that are blocking the messages, you know, and how we're feeling, because you don't know what your normal is until you've got a new normal. And then you think, oh, I quite like this is good. Why did I live feeling rubbish for all those years? I mean, it took me 40 years to discover that I had an intolerance to dairy, when my whole life I'd had headaches, I'd go through all this feeling sick, and and there was something that wasn't right, and basically it was because I was completely, you know, intolerant to this stuff but my body craved it, you know. So it's that it's difficult to, when you pinpoint it and you just think, oh, what was that all about? So I think that's the thing, is it's just having the courage, I guess, to know what is going to work for you, and just to strive out and be inform yourself, and learn and practice. And sometimes things will work, and if it doesn't, you know, learn again, change again. Hopefully you'll feel better, and just keep adjusting, because it's a journey. It's never just like an overnight fix. You know, it is a journey, and I'm constantly learning new things, and you know, sort of discovering things that work for me in a different way. So.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned other people, and I also faced the same problems when all other people were saying that, oh, it's not healthy, you will feel worse and all that. And I'm wondering if you had, you know, fear sometimes, you know, sometimes we feel like I'm doing the right thing, I'm on the track, I know it, I feel it, but sometimes all those kind of, you know, voices from outside, they kind of start to play in our head as well, and then some fears start to come up. So I'm wondering how you were dealing with maybe emotional part of the transformational journey, what helped you?
Okay, so I actually have a Buddhist practice. So I've been practicing a member of an organisation called the Soka Gakkai International. So it's a lay Buddhist organisation. So I chant and chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. So I've been doing this 14 and a half years now. Oh, and wow. So what I found with this practice is I chant in the morning and I chant in the evening, is what enables me to transform my life, basically. Because I have to say that I'm quite a different person now to how I was, you know, back then. And I mean, there'd be no way I'd be talking to you. You know, it would, oh no, I can't do that. It was very fear, you know, limiting. And so I feel very fortunate that with this practice, I've actually learned to transform the challenges. There's a phrase, it's called turning poison into medicine. And that's what I feel like I'm doing now, you know, just for myself, but also helping other people as well. It's discovering this great, fantastic way of eating that's great for you, it's great for other people, it's great for the environment, it's great for the animals, you know, and transforming this negativity into something positive. So I feel incredibly fortunate, and that is also what's got me through these challenging times, because it can be quite overwhelming when you get hit with a huge diagnosis. You know, it was very strange being from the person who sits there supporting someone when you were with the breaking bad news and having that voice, you know, to suddenly being on the other side and experiencing it, and it's very challenging. But I'm really, like I say, I'm really fortunate. I have an amazingly supportive family as well, who have just kind of come on this journey with me and have been supported me and encouraged me as well. So yeah, and I think finding something that helps you overcome your it is that little voice in your head. It's the little thing that sits on your shoulder going, I can't do that, it's all bad.
Yeah, I agree. So it's I feel like it's great when you have support, especially family support or close friends who are kind of supporting you, because it's kind of give you this foundation to go forward. And I'm also wondering if you have any morning or evening routine that help you to kind of set up yourself for success.
Yeah, well, I have to say, one of the things I do is chant, but also I get my exercise done in the morning as well. So it's almost like a prescription, if you like. So there are certain things that I want to make sure to do. So whether or not so I do my chanting, but I also do meditation as well, because that's about brain plasticity and reducing inflammation. But if I'm exercising, then I go for a run, not very far or very fast, but I still do it. And so, yeah, so it's getting these things done in the morning so that when I'm ready to start work, then I've kind of got myself ready and raring to go. And all of those things are, a lot of that is a mindset thing anyway, you know, so the chanting, meditation, then the exercise is also a form of meditation and connecting with the outside world. So, and in the COVID lockdown, it's been my saving grace, because, you know, it's like no, I can do this. I can get outside and see.
Sure. Yeah, I agree that to have a right mindset that will not be on your way is maybe 80% of success, because most of the time it will be our inner critic that will kind of say different things and create some emotions and all that stuff. So what advice would you give for a person who decide that, I want to try plant-based diet?
Okay, so I think one of the key things is to know why. So why do you want to do it? Because that's the thing that you'll need to go back to when things start getting a bit difficult. So it's like that's your starting point. And it doesn't have to be something really, you know, moral or highfalutin. Like I say, mine started off as I wanted to be able to drink wine again. So it can be anything, but know why you're doing something. And then to be able to do a whole food plant-based diet, you need to be able to cook. So just doesn't have to be complex, but just some really basic cooking techniques using seasonal fresh produce. Then that then makes it easier, because then you learn some basic recipes that you can then adapt. Start being creative, start playing with your food. You know, I grew up being told stop playing with your food, but it's good, you know, it's good to play and have it and see what works, what doesn't work. But also just to keep a very, very open mind, and to just start learning, looking at things and seeing what really attracts you, and trusting yourself. which again comes back to your why. You know, so it's trusting that your why is right, but also trusting that what you're doing is the right thing for you. So I think that they're the main things. I've given some other lots of other top tips in the giveaway that comes with this as well. So there's quite a lot of information to go in there to start off, because some people just do it no problem whatsoever. And it's easy. It's not a difficult change. But other people, it can be quite hard. And it depends where you're living, who you're cooking for, who's doing the cooking. Some people who've done my course have found it hard because they're not the cook in the family. You know, if it's the husband who's cooking, because often it tends to be women more who do my course, not always. But there's been some, you know, quite difficult conversations there for them to say, well, I'm sorry, I can't eat your food, or your food is too fatty, or you know, it's just like, oh. Yeah. So you know, it's these are the little bits that come. So it's just that, like, those top tips I'm giving you are just great places to start.
Yeah, and since you mentioned a free gift that everyone can get, let's talk a little bit about it. What in this free gift?
Oh. So it's a PDF download. So it's my 5 top tips for making positive change in the way that you eat. So and in changing to a whole food plant-based diet. So they're really simple changes, because it doesn't have to be difficult. You know, there is enough challenges in life. This doesn't have to be complex. And so they're changes that you can make in a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Some people it's a couple of years.
It's perfect. And also I'm wondering what made you to write your first book. Can we talk a little bit about it?
Yes, I was going to show you a picture of it, but I can't find it now on my desk.
Oh.
So it's called Eat Well, Live Well with a Sensitive Foodie, and so it's split into 2 halves. It's the first half is some accessible information. So it's part my story and part lots of information that I know about from nursing, from intensive care nursing, about how the body works, how the body slides into health challenges. But also some of the other information about how do you make this change, because there's a lot of information out there about why we should do these things. Right. You know, you see these things, 5 things you need or should, and it's just like, yeah, but how do I do it? So there's a lot of information about how. And then the second half is that there's over 100 recipes, and they're all easy. You know, they're not challenging to do, simple ingredients, they're not expensive, they're all family tested.
That's important.
And so well, it does help. The kids will eat it, it's great. And the reason it was just I just wanted to share this with more people, and because I run my courses, but it you know, how many people I can access is different. It was limiting at the time. Now my course is online, then it's open up much wider to people. And basically because it's something that I always said I was going to do, and I just had the opportunity to do it, and so I did. And part of it was just to show, I like to show my kids that you can do whatever you put yourself to. And so, you know, year after year, I was like, oh, I'm going to write a book. And I never did. And then I did.
Yeah, that's amazing. And congratulations. I feel like it's a big achievement. I have the same goal at some point to do that. And you mentioned simple recipes, and I was thinking, you know, I remember myself when I just started my journey, I was creating like crazy recipes that will take, you know, like 2 hours to cook, and, you know, all different dressings and kind of, you know, everything that looked was kind of really wow. But I noticed that more I am on the plant-based diet, I start to prefer more simple food, you know, like even with not much dressings, like just cut vegetables for a salad, even without any dressings or oil, just eat that. So I noticed that I'm kind of simplify, or my taste buds don't want like this kind of crazy rich flavors. And
and you enjoy it more as well,
Right.
because you can taste them, and you get that different combination of textures and colors. But yeah, I mean, the key thing is your taste buds. But yeah, I think one of the problems that people have when they start is exactly what you've just said. It's a new way of cooking, and therefore it can seem that it needs to be complicated, but it doesn't. And that's, in all of my recipes, some take a little bit longer. There's some for entertaining. So if you're entertaining, obviously it's going to take a little bit longer. But a lot of them would take 30 minutes. Some less, some a little bit more, but they're it's practical, and stuff that you can prepare ahead. Every recipe has a little bit of information at the start. Sometimes it's a bit of a story behind it, or it will have some top tips in there, so do this when you're cooking something the day before, or if you put this into soak when you go to work, then it's going to take 10 minutes when you get home. So it gives you lots of shortcuts and top tips as well, so that doesn't take up all your time.
Right. That's great.
And I think also when you're eating this way, it takes a little while for you to get used to planning, I think, and just to thinking about it. But a lot of people say to me now, they just open their fridge and it's kind of like, what's in the fridge? Okay, we're going to have this and this, and here we are. But that doesn't happen overnight. That's just with confidence and experience, and suddenly there's not a barrier there anymore. So
yeah, sure, I agree. And sometimes people who are transitioning to a plant-based diet, they will feel like, oh, what will I eat? There is not much food. But then over the time, you actually discover that you're eating much more food than you used to eat. Diversity of that.
Oh yeah. It's incredible how many things, and that is also something that's really, really good for us as well, because we actually evolved eating so many more foods than we do now, because foraging, it was basically whatever you could find. And so but now there's so much monoculture, and it's what the shops choose that they're going to have. Whereas if you go to a farmer's market, or you have a veg box scheme, it's what the farm has grown, and you can come out with all sorts of different things. So that variety is incredible.
Yeah. And it's almost our time. And before I will ask my last question, tell us where people can find your book, where they can find you, and what you are offering, what you're doing in a kind of your business.
Okay, so my website is thesensitivefoodiekitchen.com. You can find me on Facebook as The Sensitive Foodie, and I'm on Instagram as the.sensitive.foodie. And I'm always posting sort of recipes and ideas and things like that. My book is available on Amazon. It's on Amazon.com. So in the US and in the UK and Australia and Japan even, and some of the other ones in Europe. So it is there for sure. In fact, I just got sent a picture from a friend in San Francisco, and they've just got it. Which is lovely. And so I run, I've got my Eat Well Live Well online course. So it's a 5-week program. I've got one that's just started, and we're in week 2, and it's all about eating a whole food plant-based diet. So there's lots of information and recipes and cooking videos and all sorts of stuff, and it's a really great course. The next one's in September, and then November. But also on my courses page, I've got like a little free 3-unit course, just eating whole foods, plant foods for health. So you can, if you get registered up on the courses section, you can access that, and that just gives you some extra information as well, and it's a taster. So if people want to have a look at that. But I also do one-to-one sessions with people as well, because sometimes people just need a chat. They need a little bit more direction, you know, especially for dealing with a health difficulty. And so they can find me on my website for that, or send me an email. So
awesome.
Always happy to chat.
Yeah, awesome. You're doing an amazing job. I feel like it's very helpful, especially for people at the beginning of their transformation. When you have this support, you're more likely will succeed.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
And my last question, what is your big vision for the world?
So, I want the world to be a kinder place, basically, to kinder to ourselves, to other people, but also to the environment and to animals. So, that's what I'm aiming for, is just there to be more kindness, but also for people to feel more empowered for themselves about how they choose to deal with challenges and their health. So
yeah, I love
I'm
this
sure
topic.
that this summit, I'm sure the summit, or the people you're going to be interviewing, are all going to, you know, have all the similar, you know, these ideas and suggestions on how people can do that. So it's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Happy to be part of this.
Thank you so much. It was really amazing, very practical, a lot of useful information for people who just starting their journey. And thank you for sharing your story. And I really enjoyed our conversation.
No, lovely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.